August, the long days wane. The eye of the day grows cooler now. Its lid is closing earlier each evening. Dog days of August are almost at bay. The verdancy of summer is fast fading. A frisky chill awakens each morning. Vivid colors begun invading the trees. At schools, buses bunch like bananas. Inside, well-scrubbed kids are anxious. Rainstorm lightning cracks the sky, drearily lighting the way to autumn. Ubiquitous is the expiration of green. Summer is on its deathbed, wasting. These auguries of summer's doom are signals of the approach of fall. One spent season closes its book, another starts opening new pages. My seasonal.
Yeah, wow.
Well, it's-
I think I'll skip the rest of the month. This sounds pretty bleak. We call it fall because we fell. I mean, everything fell. Wow.
Well, I thought
It
August.
just really
August.
describes, it really just gives the feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really,
But again, when you're living without this for a long time, the seasons just flow into each other, and they always know that the spring is coming. This is during this time of year, you know, eventually it'll be cool again as the past 3 weeks. Okay, vitriol. Anger is an easy emotion to arouse. Our primitive limbic system and brain stem are all atavisms of our T-Rex ancestors, gnashing our carnassials, trumpeting our dominion, defending our territory, especially to non-competitors. It is all mindset. Boogie stories at night for the fun fear of peer groups, subverted to a phobia of everything, even self. We should appeal to our frontal cortex. Rational thought, more nuanced emotions, not fight or flight, but an altruistic group effort. We are only one species and only one world. But only, sorry.
And,
One species, that's one world, that's not. Why vitriol? Vitriol is, shows anger or,
Well, It was one of
hostility.
those, this was 4 or 5 humors of the body that causes anger, and you need to give blood to let it out, which always says,
Yeah.
well, that's the medication you use for anger.
Vitriol, yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
could
true.
not find the word, there's a word for all phobias, for fear of everything, Dan, what is it, do you know?
Panophobia.
Panophobia? No. Oh. You know? There's a phobia for being afraid of everything. Do you know what it is, the name of it?
For everything.
Yeah. It was featured in a Peanuts comic strip many years ago.
I didn't know there was a word for everything.
A phobia for everything.
Multiphobia?
oh, it's sick.
Multiphobia.
I don't know, nothing's striking me out right, but again, it was
Panic.
Anyhow, it is an easy emotion to arouse.
Banana, it's your turn.
Object.
You were dismissed.
We were lucky in our playpens to mouth our blankies to ourselves, connected to a piece of us, still attached to the lifeline's warmth, its unerring stability pointing to our own North Star.
Makes me want a blankie. The story. They hid him beneath the floorboards, under the Persian rug, below the dining room table, where no one thought to look. With other resistance fighters, they'd shot SS Reinhard Heydrich, that darling of Hitler, butcher of Prague, and architect of the final solution. She was just a little girl then, threatened within an inch of her life and all the family's lives. If she told, they'd all be dead. It was only the truth. The nearby town of Lidice was already leveled, men murdered, women transported, children stolen, given to Germans to raise. But she never spoke a word, and after Heydrich died, the Nazis came shoving, smashing, looking for the killers. The family wondered if this day was their last, each breath carefully measured. In time, the resistance fighters left their safe houses, only to be drowned in the church basement. That is, after they shot themselves in their heads with their last bullets, the water up to their necks. 50 years later, this was the story of why the small girl, now grown, was still anxious, still trapped under her own rug. This Czech cousin of my friend.
Neat.
Oh,
Is it true? Is it?
Yep, that happened in her house.
why was she hidden? Because the Germans were coming to, for retribution, or just before Heydrich was killed?
But they didn't hide
It
her.
Remember, he was
was a
shot.
him.
He was shot.
No, he wasn't. I know the story very well. There were two assassins who were assigned. They were British trained.
But they were
and
Czech.
And they tried to shoot him, but the gun jammed. And
Right.
then they threw, as they tried to shoot him in his car, which he traveled to the
Yeah.
same place every time. But they had a backup, and the backup was a grenade, and they threw a grenade which exploded. And they thought he would survive. They took him to, he had enough energy left to shoot at them with his own Luger. And, but he was hit by fragments from the grenade, which
Yeah.
put shrapnel into his body, including some of the cloth of the clothing that he was wearing, which caused an infection, and he died a couple of days later. Very famous assassination, because he was the archetypical Nazi brute. He was
Right.
tall, he was handsome, he was a famous fencer, he was a very skilled prodigy violinist, and he was an anti-Semitic brute.
Bastard.
He was an absolute
Yeah.
horror to those who thought sophisticated Germans would never go that way. So it's a very famous story. How interesting that you connect to it that way.
But who is him in the first line?
It was one of the resistance fighters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took, actually, I think he might have lingered for about 2.5 weeks or.
He may have lingered
For
longer than I
infection
thought. I
to-
thought it was
yeah.
a few days.
Yeah.
Initiate and then get to a lethal stage. You don't get infections overnight and die from it. That is,
Right, right. So, anyways, one of the shooters had been hidden in this girl's house.
Oh, okay. They ultimately found them, and of course executed them, but the Nazis had retribution on whole villages, as you
Yeah.
indicate, and they leveled them and they killed thousands of people.
Yeah.
He was a favorite of Hitler, so
That's
he was.
right.
So they
Yeah.
really, it was a big loss to the Nazis.
Right, right.
Hmm.
They had all gathered in the Church of St. Cyril and Methodius, which was the patron saints of Slovakia, but it was located in Prague. And that was where the Nazis flooded the basement,
Yeah.
and they saved their last shots.
So they're
For themselves.
rather than drowning.
Yeah, that was the story.
There's
So,
a
so maybe the
movie about
detail about the shooting Heydrich, well, they shot at him, but they didn't, it was the grenade and the infection that
Well,
killed him.
then they tossed that too, so it doesn't matter. They still killed him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 How would tell it?
they were Czech, they were Czech,
Yeah.
but British
Yeah.
trained.
But they were recruited and inserted by the British Secret Service, what do they call it, the Churchill group.
Right.
swarmed. Yeah, they were quite heroic. They were given the wrong materials to do the job. They were given a Sten gun that was notoriously unstable, and it jammed. And at the critical moment, it did jam. And so luckily they had backup of a grenade.
Thank God.
And what part of the war was this, did this happen, toward the end?
No, this was not the very end, was it?
No,
It was like 1944, maybe?
Okay, so it was after the Constitution was put into effect.
Yeah,
So they got most of the,
but he was one of the most brutal
yes.
architects of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that the story of Lidice? I remember Lidice being a story, but I don't remember the content of it. Was that the prime happening?
That was the town that they had originally parachuted down into.
Uh-huh,
And that's why that town was leveled and the children taken off
okay.
to Germany for,
But it wasn't where the shooting was.
no, that actually happened in Prague. And they were on bicycles. Killers on bicycles.
Okay.
He was killed June 4th, 1942.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it,
so it wasn't really, when was
main architect of the Holocaust, he was, he was killed in 1942 in Prague.
so it was more that his policies were put into effect by him overseeing the policies. What was the Jews killed post 42?
42, yeah.
But whether they killed, most of the Holocaust that occurred after 42, didn't it? Most of the killings?
Operation Anthropoid?
I don't know.
That's,
It's
yeah,
just
that's the name of it.
But just that most of the,
He was in a Mercedes convertible. He was a vain, devilishly handsome guy. I mean, if you see pictures of him, he's striking. We'd all turn around if he walked through the room. He was a very blonde, handsome, assertive
The
character.
true Aryan, right?
Yeah, an Aryan Nazi credit. He dies from his wound on the 4th of June. So it's only 2 days.
oh,
So,
that sounds, it
They,
sounds like you probably died,
they've rounded up 13,000 people were arrested and 5,000 people were executed as retribution.
How positive are there, the infection killed him? I mean, considering the shrapnel probably pierced his body too. And could have pierced his intestines, and that could have gotten into his system too, but it just, I mean, just,
So it was only a couple days. That's interesting.
well,
Yeah.
infections just don't kill that fast. Unless you got sick.
It might have been the heat could have added to it.
Well, I don't think being peppered with shrapnel, no matter how far it goes into you, is gonna be good for your health.
Yeah.
Is there anything worse than Syria, where the world stands by and watches these children being bombed and killed, buried in rubble? Can it be worse? Can it?
And
That is the epitome of evil. And it's right now.
Yes,
It's right now in the presence of the entire
And Assad
globe.
has no shame, neither does Russia have any shame. Or Iran, where they're basing the planes now. It's just,
I attribute it to the selfishness of leaders of nations who will not surrender their sovereignty to join a United Nations where there could be a world court, world police force and so on. But I seem to be living in, or a few of us seem to be living in a never land. But this is a never land that we're in now. It can never survive if this kind of crap continues.
Yeah.
On another note, a story that occurred during the war, and I was trying to remember more of the details. There was a family that was hiding Jews, and they were believed to have been hiding the Jews. And when the authorities came to the door, the child went into hysteria and started laughing and could not stop laughing. And so when they were asking where are the Jews, the child had been taught to tell the truth, but kept on laughing so hysterically that when she told the truth, they didn't believe her because they had they, the family, had dug a hole, you know, someplace that would be doable to hide someone or someone's under their kitchen table. And they were all sitting at the kitchen table. And so the child repeatedly was saying, under the table, but laughing hysterically. So they finally just left. And that saved the Jews. That
They didn't kill the kid though?
No, they just left.
Oh, no, but I mean the family.
Oh,
This
God.
cousin of yours, your friend told this story to you in vivid terms. It must have been very memorable,
Well, my daughter went to a Rotary Exchange program,
huh?
and it was a cousin. She was assigned to a family in the town of Písek, which is very close to Prague, about 45 minutes away. And yeah, the cousin. We were told after we met, the cousin came in. She was very nervous, and then this was explained to us. But there is the last little part there. The small girl, now grown, was still anxious, still trapped under her own rug.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to us people. We get traumatized by something and we can't get beyond it. It becomes a little cage for us of sorts. So whatever our trauma may be, it can just linger. Make it linger for a long time unless you get help for it.
Did you say help? Or-
Help.
Okay, I thought you said hell.
Well, it is a kind of hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, of your own making, with your brain that, convinces you that you know the right thing or what's going to happen in the past will happen again in the future. And so it's very, very limiting for your life. We can all do that.
I always think of To Kill a Mockingbird when Pascal and Jeb were chased through that woods by whichever guy it was. I can't get a name right now. And they were rescued by Boo Radley, but she still has that fear. I think she still has that fear of being chased and not being able to run because you're in a damn ham suit.
Gosh, that was
She
terrifying
Could
scene.
never eat pork again.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. All right, Patricia.
Rises the starving moon. Stark rises the starving moon. The buffalo are no more. The antelope, the deer are gone. Of the very old, the very young, many, too many, will die. While sleeping children cry from hunger, mothers deprive themselves to feed the young. Grandparents to save the tribe walk away from the village, singing their death songs. We will lose the wisdom of the past in their attempt to preserve the tribe's future.
Oh, boy.
I think I'm gonna change the tribes to our, but I'm not sure about that. What does anybody think? In their attempt to preserve, we will lose the wisdom of the past in their attempt to preserve our future.
It works.
Yeah, that's, our tribe is harsh there.
Maybe our tribe's future. Oh, I don't know.
I like the hour.
Yeah, so do I.
Well, you say in the earlier line that the grandparents
Yeah,
to save the
save the
tribe
tribe.
walk away, so that's what they're doing. Their intent is to save the tribe,
right.
whether, yeah.
And how can sleeping children cry?
Maybe it's the tribe and all of us, or something like that.
How do they
How
cry?
do sleeping children cry?
They do. I mean, you can cry as well in your sleep as you can when you're wide awake.
Okay.
And laugh.
And
And talk.
And walk sometimes.
And sing.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Babies are often smiling in their sleep.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what they're thinking.
Yeah, one of my nephews used to laugh out loud in his sleep, and we always wanted to wake him up and say, "What's so funny, Mark?" But he wouldn't have known.
It is cool.
Or dogs too, when they run in their sleep, or what they're chasing, and how much fun, do you ever catch it? It's like, when we're running in our nightmares, nothing ever really catches us, they're always on the point of, but usually you wake up with the start of them before anything actually happens, as far as
Yeah.
monsters mushing you, or doing whatever monsters do, does to.
Does anybody ever dream they're dying?
Dying? Dream of dying?
Do they ever dream they are dying?
Do you ever dream that you are dying?
I catch that now.
I
No.
I
don't.
had that dream.
I just
I dreamed I was wrestling an elephant and dove out of the bed. I crashed my head against the night table, and my wife had a similar happening
Oh my
within
God.
this last week.
Oh, dear God.
Was it an elephant?
Not in her case, I don't know what it was.
Oh,
She dove out of
But
bed.
she fell out of bed in her condition, and she has a very bad knee as a consequence, as well as a
Ouch.
bumped forehead and so on. So this business about REM sleep immobilizes the skeletal muscles. That's got to be on the normal curve as well as everything else, I guess. I mean, there are extremes, including no
Part of the phrase.
immobilization of the skeletal
Yeah,
musculature.
my brother-in-law one time dreamed that he was being chased by a lion, that it had chased him up a tree or something. But, so he smashed it. What he did was sit up in bed and smash my sister.
Yeah, yeah,
Lord.
yeah, I've done that.
It was a real jolt, the way to get waked up. I
I've
do.
done that.
Oh,
I'm going through a change in dream. There was a long span when there were none. Now they've returned, and where are they coming from? And it's nothing that I'm thinking in my daytime thoughts.
It's that change to vegetarianism.
What's And maybe the food.
You're more self-focused. The dreams are always there, it's just that you're not focusing on them.
Yeah, I almost never remember my dreams.
Right.
There are times when I realize I have dreamed, but mostly I don't even do that.
So what's the end of the story?
I don't know that, and I have to do some research on dreams because I'm kind of amazed at what's going on.
We're trying a good ham sandwich before you go to bed.
technicolor.
Ready?
The moon.
But they're not scary dreams.
That's
But
As I say, I don't know where, I thought I was going with it, so I don't know if I got there.
Everybody have one?
But I've been reading a lot of westerns recently.
So everybody has some wind.
The Sandwich Massacre and
One win?
all those sorts of things, and the way that they, there's a consistent program to destroy the buffalo in order to destroy the Indians.
What a sad thing.
But I've told the group that when that started, the buffalo herds had risen astronomically at a peak because it had a very, very 10-year span of very wet weather. So there's lots of buffalo grass for the buffaloes to eat. And this probably would be bad, then when the weather would be dry again, there probably would have been a very bad die-off of the buffalo from starvation. So it doesn't mitigate the...
But I don't think it would have obliterated them.
No, it wouldn't have,
the
and I'm not saying that it mitigates the evilness of the buffalo slaughter, but it does give you a reason for the enormous herds of them.
Oh, yeah, right. And I wondered how such enormous herds could serve. The ones at the back, there wouldn't be any grass left. The ones in the front.
That's
would
when
eat all
they're
the grass,
running,
and then
but
they'd walk on it.
once they stop, they spread out.
Well, just amazed me to think of that being that many.
And you always have to take a curry comb to them, it always looks so unkempt and fuzzy, and good grooming.
The wind. I wonder at the wind, at the way it moves us and how it moves through us as we circle our sun. No, period. As we circle our sun, winds bring us rain. or help create drought. What a vibrant earth. Every particle changes every part of this earth, and people carry the power to bless or to hinder the miracle of it all.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, nice.
A little bit more hopeful than most of our stuff.
What?
A little more hopeful than most of our stuff. And most of your poetry is hopeful rather than dim dire and extinct prone.
I find wind one of the more disturbing aspects of weather. When the wind is blowing, it unnerves me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it augurs evil.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Storms
something's
and-
blowing,
Hurricanes.
yeah. Storms and tornadoes and hurricanes
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and tempests.
All kinds of bad stuff is on the way. That's very good. I've been thinking along those lines.
Here.
These seem to be coming piecemeal.
They come one at a time as I feel.
Single.
I think, everybody have one yet?
Yeah, we're all
You
here.
are prolific, man.
Wow, you are prolific.
Not very specific. My lament, search for monarchs. Where are our monarchs? Yes, yours and mine, the beauties of our land. Where are they now? Gone with the milkweed plants, gone with the flowering roadsides, gone with wider one-crop farm fields, replaced with mowers and herbicides. The land assaulted with historic floods, drought to the southwest, the heat blasted across the globe, and fools were proud of their ignorance. Is ours a place for fools? Is our globe a comic stage? Must the wealth and power flow to those unknowing of monarchs?
Yes. Two-word meaning is good.
Castillo.
They're starting,
It's so
I don't know how long it's been going on, but they are trying to track the monarchs, and they need to find a system to do it, because what they had done was to put a tiny,
Tag.
tiny tag that they glued to the monarch's wing when it was young. And then, of course, it's growing, but that place that would be glued would be hindered in its growth. Someone that I know.
No, they don't grow up to once they metamorphose. Once they get out and spread the wings and all this stuff goes in and they stiffen the wings stay the same size. They may put on weight from pregnancy or whatever, but I'm pretty sure of that. No, it's neat. So what's really neat is that with those humongous migrations, it's different generations. I mean, you think, okay, Mama went this far. How should I go before I die or meet? I mean, it's bizarre. And they're gorgeous. I'm sorry, Patricia, I didn't mean to interrupt.
For 3 years, I've had a milkweed garden
You
to
have monarchs.
foster monarchs. And I had immediate response the first year. The second year, last year, I had good response. This year, I saw one larva. I've never seen a monarch on the wing. And I've talked to the Extension Service and other people, and I guess the experience is pretty general.
Yeah, I've grown milkweed, but I don't see any monarchs. I get other kinds of butterflies, but no monarchs.
It reached the Sunday paper this week, if you saw the Messenger this Sunday,
Yeah.
the front page article on it.
But my
But
mom's,
they are concerned, the experts are concerned, and of course, they've been studying them for years. And the great disaster in Mexico where they have
Yeah.
eliminated much of the habitat, of
Yeah.
pine habitat that they go to. But anyway, I found it extremely alarming that
Yeah.
all of a sudden we go from quite a few to zero. Well, one.
Well, I've seen them, always in viceroys, but I can't tell them apart unless I bite them.
Yeah.
Unless you what?
Bite them.
That's what I thought you said.
Monarchs bite.
They're
Monarchs,
different.
monarchs eat
Oh, I get you.
milkweed, which is a very bitter tasting plant. And so they are bitter tasting too, and so birds learn not to eat them because it's nasty, it's a nasty meal. So, and the viceroy said, he's not getting eaten, but chased by birds. So maybe I'm again, I'm horrified evolution, but there's congruent evolution look very similar.
You wonder how creatures do that.
Well,
Change their
They
whole,
don't do that, it happens spontaneously, different wing patterns.
well,
And what is the wing pattern?
but I'm thinking of, there are butterflies that actually look like, dried leaves.
Well, it's the
And,
same
you know,
thing.
But what causes that, change to start?
Variability in genotype.
Normal variability,
And maybe
mutations,
genotype, yeah.
mutations, and then it's a question of survival of the fittest.
Yeah, and those that have it survive, those that don't.
So-called natural
And
selection.
in natural, in reality, it's getting, I remember how, was it Leeuwenhoek that did they grow longer, and giraffes grow longer necks to eat the hide leaves? Is that with epigenesis and the genotype is highly affected by the environment. And so things do adapt more rapidly when the reward is,
But you're talking about giraffes?
yeah, well, I'm just saying that.
Because the thing that
example.
puzzles me about them is, they have these long necks and long legs so they can eat the leaves of the trees, but they can hardly reach the water to drink. They've got to get all spraddle-legged to get down low enough to drink the water, and that seems counterproductive. They should adapt like the koalas that just eat leaves.
And they should also have giraffe water fountains in the middle of the Sahara.
That would help.
Yes.
But, how would
They
they
just
operate
lean
them?
against the
Oh,
chest.
that's, I see.
Well, maybe they won't be a successful variant, and if we tune in 300 or 400 years from now, perhaps there will be no more giraffes because
maybe
of that. Was a poor,
desiccated
But
was a
maybe
poor
if they spread
mutation.
their legs,
They
that's
do.
a benefit to them.
Oh, that could
It
be.
It could be a benefit.
Stretches
How do
their
we
breast
know?
muscles, I don't know.
Is there yoga?
Giraffe yoga, yes, why not?
The question is, are the humans, Homo sapiens, is that going to be a fatal species? Looks that way. Anyway, let's move on to another poem.
I have hope for Zika,
Yeah,
to
right.
wipe us out.
This is, the next one in the series is called All Wet. The physiologists have decided we humans are around 60% water. Women are more fat, less water, but all these are estimates and variable. If I think about it a lot, I soon want to drink some of it water. The surface of the globe is 71% water. How luscious that blue marble from space. Does that make us better off as a fisher than a farmer? It does with prolonged drought, or with prolonged flood for that matter. Fire allows us to cook our food, but that's often in water. On the earth we grow our food, but only with the aid of water. The air we breathe carries some water. If too little, we collapse, and earth changes to sand and dust. Wildfire we try to control by dousing with water. Wild heat we try to escape by swimming in water. Covered with dirt at the end of the job, we cleanse with water. The dry air we humidify, that is, we can add water. Water makes favored scenery, the view out over the ocean, the peacefulness of the river lined with leaning trees, the clear view underwater at a grand karst-bound spring, the noise and vigor of the waterfall. So when next time I'll bring in the earth, air, fire, and water version of all this, we'll see what happens. That's the project of mine. On the far side then, Hey God, search and you will find, believe and you will see, dedicate and you will hear, maybe at a mystical distance. All the way back, the search began, Egyptian packaging for transport. Greeks knew many superior beings. Who's over the shoulder of the colonists? Some looked to mountaintops. Tall pyramids might work. Some looked deeply inside. Many looked far out, higher than one could ever see, beyond the blueness, beyond the stars, always up above one's reach, with pure evil down below. For millennia, the search has been on. Creativity and imagination worked to answer. A trance could call in the presence. Evidence-free, it was there. Satisfied without evidence, signs could always be found. If you are deeply bound, you will see and gather. Is it time to call off the search, or is the pursuit the whole story? A true long-distance runner goes for the run, not the finish. For all those with nothing, no hope, bewilderment, it might do for a time, for life is short. Just
Okay. Last time that I read a poem, it was called Trivia Trilogy A1. This is Trivia Trilogy B2. And I'm thinking that with with the information that I do have that I would like to use, it probably will be beyond a trilogy. But this is Trivia Trilogy B2. And this stems from somebody making a request that I do some writing about my personal things. And I've been looking at everybody's poems and I'm going, I will do that because it was a request from this group. But a lot of people don't write about personal things, but that's okay, I did. As a child, most of my summers were spent at the Atlantic Ocean. Salt water. It doesn't taste good when swallowed. You must stay in motion. I learned to swim between the waves and in between my parents. Which was more trouble, swelling waves or my dad moving, increasing the requirements? Recollections of vehemently shouting, "Don't move," still ring in my ears. My father's perspective, Patricia can do this, she needs to try. My perspective, Mom, Dad, do not move. Do you want me to die? I did not think my parents could reach me before I'd go down and not reappear. My imagination created numerous underwater treasures, infused with monsters and other dangerous, foreboding adventures. We were totally unaware 94% of the Earth's inhabitants are aquatic. 94%, mathematically translating to human beings, are a major minority. However, Homo sapiens act as if we are the majority and master of all. How many of the 94% did I ever meet or come close to at the Jersey Shore? Incorporating my imagination, the number would be quite high. In reality, it was small. Did you ever desire to climb a mountain? For this, you must have the skill of a superior swimmer. Actually, you need excellent underwater equipment. The world's longest mountain is submerged. One must venture extremely deep, where the surroundings become dimmer, dimmer, dimmer. The mid-Atlantic ridge reaches from the Atlantic Ocean into the Indian and Pacific Oceans. The ridge is more than 35,000 miles long, has peaks higher than the Alps, and is 23% of the Earth's surface. And I Googled what the circumference of the Earth is. It's 25,000 miles. So this ridge, and this is the picture on the left-hand side, the dark line is showing where the ridge actually is. And because it's like, okay, if the Earth's circumference is 24,000 miles, then having a ridge, the mid-oceanic ridge, be 35,000 miles long. That's huge. And then the picture on the right shows how they believe this is formed. And the question there, how would you like to sleep on these pillows? The right-hand top corner, the second one, it says lava flows and pillows, which I'd love to know how they came up with calling them pillows. But I thought it was rather interesting. I do have that in color. I only made one copy, but which I will keep. But it does show it's a little bit easier to see the things if you're interested in looking.
Well, of course, the Atlantic is growing larger and the Pacific is shrinking. Isn't that what's happening in the ocean, on the coastal plains, because all the subduction that's going on the Pacific Rim and the Japanese Trench going in and which includes Greenland, that's always having volcanic recently, is barely growing larger, slowly, very, very slowly, however.
Would you? Yeah.
It's probably just as well that it's slow.
Oh, you have to be fast, we'd be squished. That's probably been my idea of why the dinosaurs went extinct. They were, granted that asteroid probably finished off the last few remnants, but they were dying for millions of years before the final kaput happened. So it was probably just dinosaur flu, or dinosaur influenza and stuff has been passed around by new crustal contacts to be made, and dinosaurs sharing their lethal germs, just like we shared our lethal germs with the American Indians and killed them off, if unintentionally, but it's still desired.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I learned a lot. That there's so much we don't know. In fact, one of the little trivia things that I came across was we know more and have better maps about Mars than we do about our own
The
oceans.
deep sea stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But it was interesting, the depth, how long this ridge is, and the heights, and that it spews it has volcanoes that spew the lava, and how much it's done. But we don't know it because it said that below 330 feet, light doesn't penetrate
No,
in the ocean, so you can't see it. That's
And
why.
they're their echolocation now is somewhat like bats flying around our seas. But it's even more amazing in the deep oceanic hot water vents. That sort of water deep within the earth, sort of more deeper than the crust of the earth, than the ocean's floor is bubbling up, superheated, and the bacteria in there merrily using the sulfur and poisonous gases and stuff in those vents. They just love it. You know, it's nice and warm.
That's one of the things it said that's.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Science does not countermand the existence of God. It's so damn amazing and awe-inspiring that the church is one big church. I mean, the earth is one big church. And we are all worshipers, whether we know it or not. I've always been a pantheist, what the hell.
What?
I've always been a pantheist, what the hell.
Felix.
I thought you thought she said panties, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Because that's what I thought.
I have a clean pair on, so it doesn't matter. I could be injured and take the hospital with great, my head held high pride.
Hey, Felix.
I'm glad you're wearing.
Felix. Felix, were you writing some notes or something? Because I'd be interested.
I was pondering the thought that both you and Sven have water on the brain.
Yeah.
And your approaches to water are very creative and very interesting, but very different too.
Yeah.
But you're both fascinated by and inspired by the awesomeness of the oceans, and I think that's worth thinking about.
And also, it's been interesting to me that the past several times that there has been comments or a theme, I'll say theme, in some of the poems that have been very similar to things that I wrote about. That's been very interesting to me. Like you mentioned Homo sapiens, and that's in my poem.
Which means to be a religious person, you don't have to believe in Genesis at all. Even though it's glorious, but thinking of Genesis being literally true is a little bit short-sighted and studied a brain. It's a glorious poem.
Here, let me have your paper. I'm going to write down a program, because the physicist that I was mentioning is Dr. Erica Carlson, and she's a professor of physics at Purdue University. She came here to Athens back in February and did a program that I recorded and put on Sojourners Along the Way. But her main thing is her research, okay? And she's a theoretical physicist, and she does a lot of work with other physicists. Like I said, she said...
You should mention Dr. Collins, who is the director of the Federal Health Administration, is it? Does anyone know Dr. Collins? Dr. Collins
Didn't you
is...
write a book about biology a little while ago?
Yeah,
Jesus.
and he's a believer. You should mention him.
Well, I'm unaware of him, but thank you.
Well, his book
Well,
was
look
good.
it up. I can't name the agency.
No.
But, you know, there is variability. We don't deny that.
If you go to Sojourners Along the Way YouTube, and then it'll give you a playlist.
But if you
Dr.
find
Erica
one of these
Carlson.
and 10,000 of those, what do you say?
It's just something to think about, something to consider, something to ponder.
Ponder away, don't bore me with it.
Larry,
All right,
you wanna do
You know,
take us.
I don't make
Almost
comments like that.
11:30.
We need to make this group a poetry group, and I am responsible for putting us off track too often. I don't know, let's see if we can all work on making it a poetry group, because it's getting less and less interesting all the time.
Define what you mean by a poetry group.
Well, that we bring in some poems and we talk about one another's work somewhere in the light of the
Yeah,
literature of poetry.
But we do
That's
not,
one thing that I like about this evening group, is that they really talk about your poem. You know, that, for example, with this one poem, Andrea said, I think if you split this stanza into 2 stanzas, it's gonna improve your poem, and this is why I think that's true, and it was true.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I really value about it. And the same thing with these pentaforts that I deal with on the computer, is that I send them a poem and I'll get critiques back.
In the prose group, we supply a week in advance what is going to be discussed. And then the group discusses that work. The language, but also the sorts of things that make it work or not, and the realism of it, and so on. And we don't spend a lot of time philosophizing about this and that. We try to talk about the work at hand. And we spend 2 hours on typically 4 pieces. So, I don't know, we could do that, submit your poems in advance, and then everybody would be able to talk about that poem.
only if you know poetry bones. I mean, I'm not at all a grammarian, but learning grammar is, having the diagram said this for somebody that is board meeting to be whatever. And I do not want to make this into a classroom type of exchange where we cannot have fun.
Well, you'd rather have a talking group, and so it's a question of bringing out a few subjects to talk about.
Well, I have brought in a poem or poems, other people's poems that, you know, and I thought
God
we were
bless you.
I hope she does.
or discussing, and, but nobody else has done that.
I have
No, you
done
do.
that.
Yeah, right.
I have done that.
Yeah, we did that for
Yeah.
a while. We
Yeah.
chose
And I-
a
yeah, I
poet,
think
and
it's a
we
good
brought
thing
one
to
in, and
do.
then we analyzed it. I liked that. That was educational.
And sometimes when I didn't have a poem, I read somebody else's poem.
Yeah, I do
Put your
that.
name to it too then, right?
Bill and Gladine 64th wedding anniversary in 2016. Bill and Gladine Ryan remain ageless, it seems, ever working together as a team, as partners, through perils, passions, and pursuits of life, bonded as husband and wife. Bill and Gladine offer their help and their advice, speaking for peace, taking a stand, teaching behaviors that are nice, doing for so many, doing whatever they can, as spouse, as parents, as servants, as our friends. Bill and Gladine are devoted to each other as spouse, sharing their work around the house, sharing the work in their garden that a beauty to see, sharing their work in the community. Bill and Gladine are nutrition devotees in gardening, picking, selecting, prepping healthy foods that tease the palates of their dinner guests with ease. They share foods with good works, the gathering place, the poor. Their physical health, strength, and minds are proof of their wise health practices that sustain them through their years. Bill and Gladine are ever-loving parents and friends who are ever calming, caring, loving in what they say and do, reaching out to touch each one by calling, visiting, emailing, and scrolling. Bill and Gladine are devoted Christians, committing their energies in God's missions, sharing His Word with us and with men in the Southeast Ohio Regional Jail, living His Word with strength and calm and in gale. They give of their time and talents to serve those in need from which they do not swerve. They stand with them to the end. They are known by many as our friends.
I would change the first line to read, Bill and Gladine Ryan remain ageless, it would seem, because that makes it rhyme exactly with team. It's the only, and
Thank
then,
you.
and then in the
Yeah,
Third-
take the S off it. That's a good
Yeah.
point, yeah.
The second line of the third stanza, prepping has two P's in the middle of it.
Oh, okay. I wonder what happened to my computer. I
Your
expected
finger-
to
It
tell
doesn't
me.
No,
work.
no,
Can't find the word prepping. Oh, no. I
Just
see
in
it.
front of healthy.
Yes, I see it.
Isn't one P prepping a word too, though?
Pardon?
Isn't the two P prepping a word too? What is double P, the triple P word prepping?
That's what I'm saying.
I know, but isn't the two P prepping also a word?
That's hard to say.
Yeah, you know, when
That's why I was
when you're
stunned.
preparing something for something, you're prepping it.
No, but I mean, but your computer would not catch prepping as a misspelled word if it
I
is.
don't know
That's why.
whether it,
Person with magical little computer thingy, is prepping a word with two P's?
Check it, I'll see what I can find.
you wouldn't pronounce it
Problem.
prepping if you didn't have two P's.
But.
Three P's in it.
Well, you don't call it prepping. You don't pronounce the syllable that strongly. It's prepping. It's not prepping.
Right, but the double P shortens the E. So it's prepping instead of prepping.
Well, creep is not a word either, unless you're a chicken with lisp.
That it's only showing
Okay,
double
but-
Ps.
Triple P, okay, I'm sorry, but I still,
I won't even say yeah.
It does look funny.
I'm gonna get your shins too
You
late.
can't reach.
It does look
Don't
awful.
say you may get Ruth by mistake.
No, I
Or-
wouldn't.
Or Felix.
As a slang word though, is perhaps best in parentheses or italics or
Well,
something.
I
It
think
is
it's-
slang,
I
it's
think-
not a word, is it?
I think
No,
it's.
it's a word. It's a word.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a- it's a word.
It's used
It
in.
means preparation, right?
Yeah, it's used in medical, sense.
Yeah,
That's
they use
true,
it a
it's
lot.
in common,
And I think it has evolved into the language by now, but
Yeah,
it's,
that's definitely.
Yes, there.
in the line above it,
About the prepping.
above
Okay.
prepping, there's, the final word is pronounced, what, how does people pronounce that?
Devotees.
I would say devotees, but
Yeah,
Devotees, the accent on the first syllable,
instead of devotees.
instead of devotees as he read it, yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
Devotees. Devotees.
I know this is for an anniversary where you're stressing the idea that they're a couple that has worked together really well through the years. But I guess my one thing that I want to just interject here is the idea that two people in a marriage are also strong because they are different. They're not exactly alike. They don't see everything eye to eye, you know, and that aspect has been lost here. It seems like everything they do is, they are doing together and they're doing it just
Perfectly.
like, perfect.
Well, not perfect.
But that's actually where the strength of a lot of marriages are, in the fact that they're not the same. And the qualities of one person help sustain the other over certain parts that they couldn't otherwise leap. You know what I mean, Larry? So, I'm sure you do know what I mean. That's the only thing that I just sort of want to mention here.
I appreciate
I
that.
just think maybe in polite company, Bill may occasionally break wind.
Well, and
And then one went to it.
Or impolite company.
Hey, what was that?
If you know, you could put it in.
Well, but the poetry
No,
is saying you.
this is a treat. What is it?
a tribute.
Tribute.
Right.
This is a tribute. For God's sake.
As for the reading at a wedding anniversary party or something, isn't it? This is what you would proclaim at the party?
Good.
Something like
Trying
that?
to write about knives at dawn, you know, between a feuding couple, somehow lacks a Frostian bent.
I don't mean to say you would highlight their.
No, and I agree
You know.
wholeheartedly with you, but I'm just saying that it's hard to interject the similarity without creating a second, a couple's world war.
Well, but no, I think differences can be celebrated.
I'm just saying, writing about it is hard to do with the short version of a poem. I mean, there have been novels,
It's a noisy
series
gas
of
you've got
novels
there.
written about
It's annoying.
the similarities in couples. And how it does breed strength and more interesting outcome. But,
Well, anybody who's a couple knows
Yeah.
the truth of coupledom.
I agree wholeheartedly, I'm just saying that it's hard to write about it in the iambic pentameter.
I think you're right, too. It is hard to write about.
2 weeks ago, I shared a poem about Bill and Mary Lynn. And they have many contrasts. And I enumerated them
I miss that.
and kind of humorously. Because they are a couple in spite of their differences, and differences can strengthen. or challenge, aggravate, you know, it can be all of that.
I know a couple whose the husband's Republican and the wife is very Democratic, and somehow they are still married.
Right, right.
August, the long days wane.